Hey, ladies. Holy shit, it's been a minute. I have to say, I'm quite nervous sitting here because it has been such a long time since I've been on this platform live. And yeah, the time has come for me to start sharing some of what's been happening in the background and some of what's happening in the now. So for those of you who are new to my world, hey, my name is Elle. I've been in the personal development space for, close on 20 years now. First as a life coach, and then after really immersing myself into what I've discovered to be the masculine art of coaching, which is really goal focused, which is really motivational, which is really action driven, I am now evolving into the space of what I'm calling the feminine art of self-leadership. And this is really where we get to come home to ourselves, where we really get to delve into intuitive guidance and understanding how universal laws are working and evolving our language, upgrading our vision, our energetic field, and from there start really creating a powerful life experience intentionally for ourselves. Now, one of the things that I want to chat to you today about is language and the power of our language, and why I want to encourage more people to start making their intuition, their emotional guidance right, instead of feeling discontentment with what is being said in general and then making themselves wrong. Because the time of making ourselves wrong because things are wrong for us is over. This is a new experience that we get to co-create for ourselves. Now, I'm going to say this as well. This is where we get to take complete responsibility for ourselves. This is where we start understanding the power that we have over our thoughts, over our beliefs, our happiness, and our well-being. So if what I am sharing with you today is not resonating, is not landing, that is perfect too. I am specifically speaking to people who are evolved in consciousness and who are ready to take the conversation further than what the status quo is taking it at the moment. So if the status quo conversation is the best fit for you, then honor that, respect that, and continue that conversation. But if, like myself and majority of my clients and friends, the status quo conversation is just like, it's feeling restrictive and it's feeling wrong for you, then my invitation is that you start exploring what is coming next for yourself. And in this, we're actually creating what is coming next in mass consciousness. The one thing I specifically wanted to delve into today is the conversation around vulnerability. And this is a conversation that most people are not wanting to have because pop culture is all about vulnerability and it being a strength and encouraging more and more people to show up in a vulnerable state. If that is where you're at, I 100% respect that. However, I was having a conversation with some of my clients in the sanctuary last week. And one of the conversations were around women not wanting to post what's happening for them at the moment, because the moment that they post or start talking about what's happening, there is this nagging sensation of, oh my God, now I have to be vulnerable, and it doesn't feel good to be vulnerable. I will authentically share with you as well that the whole vulnerable conversation has never sat well with me. Every time that people have said you have to be vulnerable, you have to show up in this space, it's been like, everything inside of me just pushed against that. And for the longest time, I thought to myself, well, that is your shit to sort out, girlfriend. That is you having to do the work so that you are willing to show up in a vulnerable state. This is not true. When we start delving into what vulnerability even means, it insinuates that we need protection, that we are vulnerable, that we are weak in that moment, and that we are willing to be taken care of, seek safety from others in our space whilst we are being vulnerable. It requires external protection. Let's think about this. This is very much in alignment with the child fear consciousness, which is what majority of society is still finding themselves in today. Again, not making anybody's evolution wrong, not making anybody's journey wrong, but for those of us who have done the work, the deep internal work, where we actually outgrow this child consciousness into our sovereign consciousness, vulnerability is a lie. It's not applicable to us anymore. What is required from us is to be real, is to be outspoken, is to state what is happening right here, right now, as we are processing it, unapologetically, unashamedly, and unafraid. Unafraid, because it's just the human life experience that, quite frankly, my darling, we are all going through. We are all consciousness evolving through life experience. When we start delving deeper into the whole vulnerability conversation, it really is people asking you to be real, but then planting the seed that being real makes you vulnerable. So let's think about this a little bit. Why are we creating a story in society that being real makes us vulnerable? I don't know about you, but this is definitely not a story, a belief that I want to foster for myself. I want to know that I can be real at any given time, and that makes me strong. It does not make me vulnerable. Being real comes from a space of I know who I am, and I know how I get to show up in this life, and I know how I get to intentionally create and co-create my experience with the entire universe, including every single person who gets to see this live, whether now or in future. Understanding this as well, that you are co-creating this conversation with me. It might seem one-sided, and I think it's one of the reasons I stopped doing these lives, because I enjoy having a dialogue with people. I enjoy interacting with people, which is one of the reasons we've created the sanctuary, because ultimately there is something in you that is creating this conversation with me, whether you're just watching this live or whether you get on a call with me and have this interaction. We are all co-creating life experience. And I want us to start thinking about the language that we are using in this co-creative process. Is it the most empowering, liberating, expansive language, words that we can find, that we can use with each other to really intentionally upgrade our life experience and live our best lives? Or are we creating dialogues that feels empowering to some people, but it's really disempowering others, because it's still creating a toxic codependency? When we want somebody to be vulnerable, it means that somebody needs to protect them in that moment of vulnerability. It's why babies and baby animals are vulnerable, and why adults then protect them. So my challenge to you today, my invitation to you today, is to start feeling into what does it really feel like when you get to be your real self unapologetically. Does it really feel vulnerable? And if it does, what's the story that's running that feeling? And then how do you want to feel in being your real self? How do you want to feel in being your authentic self? Because for me, it feels powerful. It feels unapologetic. It feels deeply appreciative and accepting and respecting of myself. None of that feels vulnerable It feels very grounded. It feels like my structure is in integrity. It feels like my structure is in integrity, which means how I'm showing up and what I am sharing is aligned with my truth and my values and my mission and my vision for how I choose to live my legacy. It truly is time for evolved women to start paying attention to language and, more importantly, to how language is making you feel. There are so many words that are ready to be upgraded in consciousness, which is one of the reasons I am creating new words, because quite frankly, I'm starting to feel beyond the construct of the old language that we have been using up to this time. We get to draw on the most powerful words from the past and create more powerful words for the present, which is creating our future. So don't underestimate the power of your language, the power of your words, and the power of your emotional guidance system. And so if you are listening to what the pop culture is preaching and it feels wrong for you, then don't make yourself wrong, darling. Instead, make yourself right and do the inquiry as to why it's feeling wrong for you. And then start playing with your language, start playing with your thoughts until you will feel that click. You will feel that, yes, this feels right. And for me, it's about being real and understanding that my most real self is my most powerful self, and there is no vulnerability in that. So I'd love to hear from you guys. Like, what is the word that really fits for you? And again, if vulnerability is a good fit for you, then by all means continue with that conversation. But if it's not, then what is it that you desire to create as part of your life experience in how you show up, in how you conduct yourself in life, in how you express yourself to others? If it's powerful, if it's real, nothing to prove, nothing to hide, how can that feel vulnerable, my darling? So I hope that you guys have all taken something out of this. If it has resonated for you in any way, shape, or form, then I ask you, please share this. Let's get a new conversation going on this platform. Let's get a deeper conversation going on this platform for evolved women who simply don't resonate with the current conversation that is happening, because it is time for us to evolve the conversation. It's time for us to evolve the language. And it's going to take more than one person to do that. So I am not in this alone. I am choosing to co-create this with you today. So if there's somebody that needs to hear this, please share this with them. If there's something that you're taking from this, please comment on this. Let's have this conversation of how do we start intentionally creating the most powerful experience for more women on this platform and life in general. So that's all I wanted to share with you guys today. You'll see that I'm talking about the sanctuary and the soiree quite a bit at the moment. That is because those are the two spaces that I have created specifically for women to start having new conversations, to start being real, authentic, unapologetic, and to talk about everything that matters in this life. Because one of the things that I have come to realize as well is that we have created a very one-dimensional approach to life, and that is very masculine in the focus, right? So I'm finding that a lot of us get stuck into only focusing on relationships, or only focusing on business, or only focusing on fitness, or whatever the case might be, which is masculine, and it's powerful, but it's not all that there is for women. Our nature is seeing the landscape. Our nature is creating holistically. That is the feminine aspect of life creation. It's pulled forth from desire. It's no longer pushing against pain or trying to get away from pain. We get to evolve past that, ladies. And so the spaces that I have created for us is, first of all, the Sanctuary, which is an online platform away from all the social media platforms, where we can connect in privacy and talk about anything and everything. And that really is the best first step if you are interested in the soiree, which is where we have fortnightly meetings online and really just delve deep into provocative conversations. So if either one of these are of interest to you, just DM me. We can have the conversation, see if they're a great fit for you, and then take it from there. Thank you so much for being with me today. I really would love your takeaways of this concept of what happens when we move beyond the vulnerability conversation. And don't forget, we get to live our legacies unleashed, unlimited, and apologetic. Have an amazing day further, and I'll speak to you soon. Cheers.